Now we will see the other remaining shapes in this tool, which is polygon. So let's say if you want a triangle, I've selected the polygon tool. I will click and drag here. The same thing applies here. If I just click and drag, it will take whatever size that I wanted to, whatever proportion we are dragging it at, or I will press shift so that we'll get a triangle with all equal sides. Now we can all the properties are the same: width, height. We can rotate it, we can have a corner radius. Okay, now the thing here is, this is a 3-side shape. We can increase the shape by we can increase the number of sides with this count. We'll change it to 4. Now let's say we'll change it to 5. So you can change the shape type from here. Okay, now it's a hexagon, and all the properties that we applied on the rectangle, square, circle will also apply to this shape, that is fill, stroke, and also effects. Let's see how effects work. Okay, what we'll do is we will have our rectangle in the background. Okay, we will give it a slightly lighter color so that we can see some of the effects on this new shape that we have, our hexagon. I'll click and drag and increase it. If I press shift, it stays in the same proportion. Now let's try and add an effect. So I will first change the color to something nice. I'll select this. I'm changing the color to let's change it to white. Okay, now I will add an effect. I will click here and I will give it one effect. Okay, as you can see, the default effect here is a drop shadow. I can click on this drop shadow and change the effect. It can give an inner shadow, it can give a layer blur. We will not be able to see it here because it needs to have some elements so that we can see the blurriness, or it can have a background blur. We will stick to drop shadow right now. So I will select drop shadow. Now I want a different type of drop shadow. So what you can do is you can select this setting button. This will allow you to change settings of the selected effect. I'll click on this and it will give me some of these options. We'll just bring this a little closer so that we can see what's happening when we are changing the values here. So I will change the X to 10. We're changing it to a bigger value so that we can see the stark difference. Okay, now moving to this. See, as we changed the X-axis position to 10, it has changed its shadow. We will keep it 10 for Y also. Okay, so now it's an angle. Okay, because it's 10 on X, 10 on Y also. We will increase the blur to 10. Now it's fading out more softly. Otherwise, if we reduce this to 0, it will be a sharp shadow. Let's retain this and let's reduce the X and Y a little. Okay, now still my shadow is a little too dark, so we can also change the color. However, we'll retain the black and change the opacity. Okay, so let's say we will stick to a 10% opacity. Yeah, and now it looks like a nice subtle shadow that suits our design. Now we'll close this. So this is how you can apply shadow to any shape. All the properties that we saw on the right hand side panel can be applied on a group, a frame, on all the shapes, and even on the text tool. So this is our hexagon. I will reduce the size. Okay, and I will reduce the size of this rectangle. I'll place both of them somewhere else. I reduce the rectangle further because there are other shapes that we have placed. Okay, the next tool and the last tool, that's the last option that's remaining in the text tool, is the star tool. I will click and drag the star tool while I am pressing the shift key. Okay, now as we can see, the default star that we have is a 5-point star. So these are the points, as we can see, and these are the angles at which how deep you want the sharp how deep you want this thing to be. So let's first try changing the count, okay, the number of points. Again, the x-axis, y-axis, width, height, rotation, corner radius applies exactly the same. The only two things for that are specific to the star shape is the count and the ratio. So let's change this to, well, let's increase it. Okay, see, I am moving up arrow and down arrow. Up arrow is +1, down arrow is -1. Okay, now let's stick to 6 sides. Let's see what happens when we are changing this. We'll change it slightly. 60. Okay, see, it initially it had a lot of depth. It was at 30%, 38%. Now it's at 60%. The more you increase it, the more it will lose that sharpness. So I'll retain it to, let's say, 60. And this is how you can modify your star shape. The edit object applies on all the shapes, on all your vectors, and here, as you can see, if I click on edit, it will allow me to edit this star also. Okay, so that's how you can make changes in your shape. One second. Okay, now I will make this smaller and I'll keep this on the side. And we have seen these shapes: rectangle, which is also used for a square; line and arrow, where you can change the line and arrow just by changing the settings; the ellipse tool, which is a circle, which can be used for an oval; the polygon tool, which can become which can be changed to a multiple side shape; and then the star tool. Like I said earlier, the place image and the video, the image and the video option, we will start using it when we need it in the design. So that's it for today. Thank you so much, guys. See you in the next video.